To the Vegan Champion podcast. We are here today with Lee Grantham. Welcome.
How you doing?
Good. We've got some common ground, and we've got some not so common ground, and we're going to have a conversation here today and see how this goes. And I hope we can have that. I hope we can have a conversation about diet and food and animal rights and agriculture and environment and whatever we end up going into. But for people who are not familiar with you, Lee, would you please just give us an introduction? Tell us about yourself.
Oh yeah. Okay, so I suppose I live and breathe endurance sports. I love being on the bike now just as much as I love running. I'm a professional runner. I run full time. And I came to it quite late, I suppose. So I restarted running when I was 27. So I was good at track and field and cross country as a kid, and then had a 10-year gap where I got into headhunting, started to lift weights in the gym, played rugby and football, and then there was a crash in the market, 2007, 2008, and I decided to take a sabbatical and do some cycle touring in Asia, and that kick-started my enthusiasm for endurance again, and I just figured that was really what was missing from my life. So then I remember, and I just had to tell exactly the same story. I remember I got back from this cycle tour where it was Bangkok to Singapore, and all the way I was thinking, you know what, I need to get back into running. I haven't run for so long. It's been probably, I think I was 16, 17 years old. And as you do, I thought I'll just go out for an hour of run and, just enjoy the nature. This was in Thailand. And after 400 meters, I was exhausted. So all that cycling fitness, all that football and rugby fitness just didn't translate into, didn't know how to pace or anything like that. And then it's been like a 9-year, 10-year journey to where I am now. And then I got my first Great Britain vest in 2016 or 2017. And then went from there. Yeah. So yeah, that's it really.
That's so fascinating.
That's all I am, a runner.
You're a good runner, though. I mean, give us some of the results that you've had. I mean, it's don't be shy. I know you're a modest dude, but I mean, just to give people a sense of some of the times you're running. I mean, like some of your results.
I hope I don't come across modest, because I'm definitely not modest.
Well, then lay it out. Tell us where you've been at, because you've had some fantastic results, and you're.
No, I mean, this is the funny thing, right? So you usually in running circles you have a lot of quiet characters, yeah. But I suppose that doesn't really sell events. So I mean, the 10,000 meters, for instance, on the track in the Olympics. How many people really tune in for that? Like, you'd have to say diehard athletics fans. How many people really, everything's going to be decided in the last 2 laps. So how many people catch the highlights? Whereas if somebody's fighting in the UFC, I won't watch it. I won't wait until 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, but the first thing I'll do in the morning is get on YouTube and watch it. Yes. So it's exciting. So running is not an exciting sport. So I think it needs some kind of a change. Otherwise, we can get into that later, getting kids into sport and stuff like that. But in terms of, if you want numbers, in terms of PB, I'm an okay marathon runner. My PB is 2:21. I suppose my best time is 100K for 6:42.
Wow.
These all need improving on. And then I have some course records in some like really, really difficult races, like the Doyenton 50K was pretty tricky, but then there's a race that's identical to that every year in Granada, where I live in Spain. And that's 50K uphill again, just, relentless. And I have that, when I started running 2010, after getting back from Thailand, I did that for the first time with the goal of finishing. And then I said, one day I'm going to win this race. And then 2017, I won the race and set the course record. So for me, without a doubt, it's my favorite race every year. And it's like a celebration in Spain whenever you run anyway. But this is the end of the summer, and it's such a beautiful race, because you finish at the top of a mountain, and you're literally at the peak of the 4th highest mountain in Spain, and you can see the route that you just ran and everybody finishing. And Spanish people are great, Spanish people are just, for them, it's almost like the race gets in the way of the after party. So it's, it's brilliant. But yeah, those are the stuff that I'm proud about. Yeah.
So what is it that makes you want to go out and do the amount of, I mean, when you mentioned you did a, cycle touring. I mean, you're obviously, what brings you to endurance sports? What do you think it is about endurance sports so that is so attractive for you?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I think for me, it's like meditation a lot of the time. Yeah. So if you look at a typical training week, then we're currently training 20 to 25 hours a week training, and then strength on top of that. And for the majority of it, it's easier recovery runs or easier recovery rides. Yeah. And for me, most of that is like meditation. And right now, more than ever, I mean, we're in a strange time with COVID, but right now it's a lot more exploration. So it's a lot more getting back to what I was doing cycle touring in Asia.
I love that.
And it's just the perfect time to do it. But all of a sudden, just like, wow, I would have never stopped, because I wouldn't want my heart rate to reduce. I wouldn't want the splits to change. But all of a sudden, if I see something really beautiful, like a snake on the side of the road, I really want to sort of see what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's that to it. And whilst I was cycle touring in Asia, there was just amazing moments where you see stuff that you're never going to see, especially on the bike. Where we've done Samong Loop, hundreds probably, yeah. And the stuff that you see, like, it never gets boring, like riding past elephants. Never, ever. You fly around the corner and you see elephants. That is never going to get boring to me. Never gets boring when I watch, like, a really beautiful snake go across move across the road. Never gets boring. And spiders and things like that. And so you get to see stuff and you get to learn about yourself. And I think right now, a lot of people are suffering with mental health and all these issues after just a few weeks. Whereas I could go, like, my favorite times ever so far have been hiking in the Himalayas for months and cycle touring in Asia for a year. Like, those are my favorite times, just being on my own, in my own thoughts, and just your own power and moving forward place to place with your own power. Yeah. There's just something beautiful about it. Yeah.
I've always had a drive to do that, and I have not done it as of yet, other than maybe, for a day, go a day, go on a day trip, that kind of thing with my bike. And I'm kind of, I don't know. I don't want to use the word regret. I mean, that's kind of a strong word, but I almost regret that I haven't done it yet. I feel like I need to do that. I need to plan some sort of a long-term bike tour. It just, I got it, I got to make it happen.
Yeah.
And just hearing you talk about how you looking back, those are like the times that you look back on, and like, I cannot allow myself to, be on my deathbed one day and look back and say, look, I never went and did that, because I feel definitely the same. Calling for that. Do you have any plans in the immediate future that you're are you looking to do more of that?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm probably going to be competitive for the next 3 to 5 years. I want to set the world record in 100K. Yeah. So to do that, the Japanese are really strong. Americans have usually got 1 or 2 strong guys. South Africans are really strong. And then you've got like a couple of outliers. There's a Swede, there's an Italian that probably just got a little bit too old for it now. But to set the world record, everything's got to go right on the day. And it's a bit like a marathon. You need everything to go right, but there's just more speed bumps along the way in 100K.
What do you think is the best sort of age? I mean, to put it, like, I'm curious, like, how do you think about that in terms of, because I know in triathlon, there's certain, kids who are 18, 19, 20, not young 20-year-olds. Those are all, they're like sprinting, and, some guys into their late 20s or their early 30s can be absolute weapons in the sprints. And then, when it comes more to like Ironman distances, it tends more to be people in their 30s, maybe their late 20s. Is 100K, I mean, how old are you? And is like, how do you think about that in terms of world record?
Listen, I'm 37, so I started this when I was 28. I started 27 to 28 years old, and so I think it's a little bit like a car. If you've been running all your life, then you've got lots of miles on the clock. You're probably going to start to suffer with things, and it's how you treat yourself as well. Like, I make sure I get 8 hours sleep plus a siesta. I feel as if I eat well. You're probably going to tell me I eat terribly, but I feel as if I eat well. And it's just the first thing I think about in the morning and the last thing I think about at night. So when you wake up and you do what you love all day long, I don't want to sound too cheesy, but I think that will take its toll in terms of there's zero stress in my life. And I coordinate my life so I don't have any stress. I don't want any stress. So
not so much taking, you said taking a toll. It's like a benefit that you're enjoying it.
yeah.
I think that's what you're saying, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So I think if you do what you love every day, it keeps you young. And I feel like, I don't know, like 16 years old, like mentally maybe 18, but like physically 16 years. I don't know the difference, you know. And yeah, I want to keep doing it for as long as possible. But after I'll know when I'm not competitive anymore, and then I want to climb mountains. So I want to climb some big mountain peaks and spend lots of time hiking. Yeah.
That's beautiful. But right now you've got competitive fire. So what?
Yeah.
I think I understand why you can love the process. Some people might say like you're like the journey, you know, you're like, you love doing the bike touring and being able to, as you say now, like going out and just exploring, not worrying about what the Strava file is going to look like, being able to slow down and look at something. I mean, I relate to that, you know. It's like, are we out doing a session where like, you know, no time to stop for something that we see, or are we just out like enjoying the process of getting outside and, you know, exploring nature? So I think I get that. I definitely relate with that. And I'm curious what drives you to take that next step and go and compete? Like the daily enjoyment of the process, I get it, but why try to set a world record? Why go to a race at all for you?
Yeah, for me, it's just like innate within me. So so ever since I was a kid, you know, I had to win in races. So I think like from joining high school, I was just doing everything else. So football, cricket, it was football in the winter, football in the summer. And then I went to rugby school, so I was playing all these different sports, badminton, like exactly the same competitive drive, table tennis, everything. And then we had a cross country race and I won it. And it was like my first taste of, okay, it's not something you've done before, but you're good at it. And then I started to sort of get picked up and get coached and join a running club. I just needed to win. So whatever, it's like, for me, I was saying this to somebody else the other day, like, for me, it's like sport is war without bullets. Yeah. So my biggest rivals in the 100K that I see, okay, they're trying to do what I'm trying to do, and I need to get there before them, and I need to beat them in races. They're the people I have the most respect for as well. And they're literally, it's so international. It's literally like there's a few Spanish guys because I live in Granada. There's Americans, there's South Africans, there's Japanese. So you have all these nationalities, all these different cultures. You have so much respect for them when they're ahead of you, and you know when they're shoulder to shoulder. And also, it's a sport where you can literally like toe the line with your idols. So people I looked up to and have won the world championships 3 times, like Giorgio Calcaterra, Jonas Bud, who was, I think, was silver medalist like in the world championships 8 times and then won it. Like these are gods to me, because to be that good for so many years is amazing. So
Yeah, it's so cool to see they're still doing it. You know, the guys like I love. I mean, yeah, just you see it at triathlons too. You know, guys who've you know, world class guys who are still doing the sport. You know, competing. You know, in their age group, or you know, some of them still professionals, right? Like guys who are like Craig Alexander is, you know, he's like 45 or 46, and he still, you know, competes in the pro field and stuff. And really inspiring to have that context of like all the other people you're racing in the other countries. But I relate to it too, just as an age group or a triathlete, you know, trying to look at who's it. Like I've just actually this year I'm supposed to be going up an age group, although apparently there's no races. You know, into that 30 to 34 age category. And it's just so interesting, like looking at, like, that's going to be harder, you know, and like looking at everybody around the world and having that sort of, Yeah, I mean, it's just a basic, like, competition is fun. Like, that's why people like
Yep.
video games. That's why people like,
Yep.
that's part of, people who are in the best career for themselves. They love that competition around that context of whatever they've built their career in, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
there's that. And what what else would you say? I mean, anything else that you would add to, reasons that you compete? Like, why specifically this distance? Like, did it just sort of fall into your lap that you got into running and you had all this endurance? Like, did you just pick an event that suited your strengths, or what caused you to the 100? You know.
Yeah, it's good. That's a good question. I suppose that anybody can do a marathon now, right? So if you sat in the office and somebody's like, "Yeah, I'm doing London Marathon. Fancy it?" It's like, "Yeah, okay. When is it?" And so anybody can do it. And then you've got obviously the spectrum of people aiming for different times, and it's inspiring to see people get up and do something.
Mm-hmm.
But with the 100K, it just takes a lot more commitment, and it takes there's something to it. It's like, if I was living in America, I'd probably be doing a lot more of these 100 milers, like Western States and Leadville, and a lot more trail races. But the trail races we have in Europe are a lot more technical, and I like to run. I like to run and try and hold pace. So the flat 100K for me is it's just, I don't know, it's just where I'm at. And also, like you say about age, there is something that needs to be realistic about
Mm-hmm.
me. I mean, I think the key age for a marathon runner, Eloid is obviously proving that wrong, whatever his age, but he like is supposed to be 27, and so I thought, yeah, if I'm gonna have more time to get in. And I remember living in Sweden in 2010, 2011, and just watching this race, and yeah, just being like, wow, these guys are running for 6.5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's incredible. It's just insane. So
Break.
yeah, it's just
I was gonna say, if you could break down just so people can understand, because I think it's really difficult for people to understand just, how far 100K is, how far is that? How long does it take? What kind of pace do you need to run? Like,
mm,
if you could tell us, what's the current record for
mm,
100K?
mm-hmm.
What is the time for that?
So 6 hours and 10 minutes.
And so that breaks down to what kind
So,
of pace?
so that's 3:42 per kilometer. Yeah. So the world record was broken last year by another Japanese guy. It's been held by Japan, I think, for 25, 30 years. And it was 6:13, which is 3:43 per kilometer, and got broken to 6:10. And there's a fast course in Japan and Lake Saroma, I think it's called, and that's happening in June. But they're not accepting international invitations. I was going to go to it, and the British record is 6:20. Not sure what that is in kilometers, but when I ran my 6:42, I was aiming for 4 minutes per kilometer. So 4 minutes per kilometer is 400 minutes, yeah, which is 6 hours 40. And I came out at 4:01 per kilometer. So a little bit similar to the marathon. It's not like you can think, all right, I've got loads of energy left. I'm just going to speed up in the second half and make 10 minutes up or 15 minutes. You've got to go out at your pace, and you've got to. So whenever I run like 70K or 50K uphill or what, there's not a lot you can. There's a lot you can lose in the second half, but there's not a lot you can gain. So you have to I have to train myself to be able to run 3:42s. And obviously even faster than that, and so that's what all my training has been geared towards the last couple of years. Yeah.
So how do you actually structure your training then? Like, what are the parameters that you're thinking about when you go out training, and what are the objectives you're trying to hit?
Yes. So honestly, it sounds. I don't know why. It's probably obviously because it's so mass participation marathon. Everybody knows about it, and you need to improve your endurance. You need to do some intervals or some speed work. And as a combination, you move forward, your lactate threshold improves and your endurance improves, and you're able to cover the distance in the fastest speed possible. It's no different for the 100K. So it's just that your long run gets a bit longer. So it goes up to 65, 70K, and you really want like a big chunk of that to be at race pace. So that obviously living in Chiang Mai, the times that we've lived, it's super hot. And part of my reason for like living in Granada, when it's really hot, it's like 35 to 40 degrees. And then moving to Chiang Mai, it's like 35 to 45 degrees at the moment. It's because it's like altitude training. So your body's cooling system improves a lot more when you're training in the heat, and you learn to cool down more. So you'll notice over time that your heart rate reduces and you're getting used to the heat, you're acclimatizing. And when you go back and then dip into race conditions at 12, 15 degrees, it feels really easy. So
I've
so that's
definitely had that experience, like for sure, going from Thailand back to Canada in the summer. Like the summer in Canada, you know, it's, I mean, in the morning it's still, you know, like
yeah,
low 20s, and
yeah,
like
yeah.
you're just cruising, like you're just cruising, like running at paces that would just be, you know, like challenging in Thailand. Come back to Canada, you're just cruising, like just, it's like, what is this about? Which is, it's great.
Yeah.
It's an amazing feeling. So that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Do you think, do you like, how much do you structure? Because I mean, it's tricky to think about, because threshold, to me, I'm thinking like threshold is like an hour, maybe 2 hours. Like, you know, you're sort of like what you can maintain for an hour, 2 hours. But I guess you're obviously training to be a much, you know, like in a slower gear than what most people might think of when they think of threshold. So I'm always confused about, like, are you in training? I mean, especially because it's running, are you trying to just basically do most of your training at as close to race pace as possible, because your race pace is not the race pace of, say, a sprint, you know, like somebody doing a much shorter event, right? So
Yeah.
how much of your time training would you say you spend at around race pace?
Yeah, that's a good question. A lot of it. So you're playing with race pace all the time. So if I'm training for a marathon, I'm trying to run 3:19 per kilometer. And so a lot of the faster stuff will be 3:20 per kilometers is actually 10 times 20 seconds. So it's a really nice number to make the explanation. So I'll be playing with faster running at 3-minute pace. So that's like plus 10%, 10% faster. And then the slower runs will be 3:40. So you'll know that if you can hold that for like extended periods of time, you can go 10% quicker. And also, you know, the biomechanics start to come into play as well. You don't want your hamstrings, for instance, to be like completely surprised on race day that you're running 3:20 per kilometer when you haven't been in training. So you want to do a lot of your training at race pace. But then the recovery runs, this is always a big surprise for people. It's like for me, the total volume is a little bit different because I spend so much time on the bike. So I know if I can regularly get sort of 80 to 100 kilometers running in per week, that's enough for me, because I'll do sort of 200 to 400 on the bike. Whereas a lot of marathon runners will run 100 miles. My thinking behind that is it's a very conveniently round figure that somebody's just thought, okay, it's worked in the 80s, should work now. And so people are just, and I think, yeah, it's obviously quality over quantity, but then the recovery runs are just really, for me, really, really, really slow. So it might be running 5:30, 5:20 per kilometer, and just get through it and make sure, just the sole purpose being that you feel better at the finish than you did at the start. So your legs are more loose, and you gather a momentum ready to go fast again. Every 3 days you go fast.
So every 3 days you go, how often are you going on an easy, like you described, like, you know, over 5 minutes per kilometer?
Yes, like 2 to 4 times a week. Yeah, I'll just be running slow, and then naturally as you get fitter, that sort of like moves up, and then 5 minutes seems really easy, and then 4:40s. But if I'm really really sore one day, it's just like, I think as you get more experienced and as you get older, you realize that you're trying to sort of tick boxes, when in actual fact, like, the clever thing to do is know when to take a rest day and know when to take a really easy day. So if you're feeling really sore and really stiff and you actually can't run in the same way that you usually do, just go for a hike, just get out of the house and sort of like walk for a little bit, and then gradually pump blood around the legs, and you'll feel better. There's no need to sort of grind out the figures, and you can become a slave to Strava now, I think, and got to post a run, and I've got to post X amount of kilometers or miles this week. And I think if you get sucked into that, like, it's just the same in life. Like you start to think, if you start to care about what people think about you, then you're falling into the same traps.
So do you have a coach? I mean, I would guess that you don't have a coach. You're nodding
No,
your head no.
no, not for. It sounds really bad because I coach quite a few people, but I I like to do things on my own terms. So if I want to go to bed at 4 o'clock in the morning and wake up 8 hours later at midday and train in the heat, that's what I'll do. And if I want to like travel to Thailand or go to race in the Maldives, your coach is not going to let you do that because it's not a smart move to go and race in the Maldives in like 40-degree heat, 90% humidity. It's really, really not a smart move. But for me, it's like the cycle touring. It's much more of a journey. So that sort of stuff can be fun. So you can get a lot more out of it, and you've got more stories to tell. And I think, yeah, I think especially in the off season, no, you're there for so much time during the year, just constantly focusing. It's good just to take time off where you just say, yeah, I'll do that and I'll do that. It's more fun. So yeah, that's why I don't have a coach. And then yeah, online coaching, totally believe in it. Really, really believe in it. I think it's great. I think even online physiotherapy is becoming a big thing, and like rehabilitation, prehabilitation, and so yeah, I don't have an issue with that. And I actually on coaching, like the people that I coach, I learn so much from them. Not how to coach, but I'm like sometimes I'm preaching stuff. Like I'll give you a recent example. Like,
Sure, please.
okay, yeah. So the common question at the moment is, right, we've got all the races have been cancelled or postponed. Yeah,
Yep.
you've got no motivation. You got nothing to aim at. So what should I be doing? Like, how should my intervals look now, and how should my long run look now? And I'd be like, well, no need to risk anything. So anything feels tense or tight, just back off completely. These are the days to take rest days or recovery days. So if you have a session you're just not feeling, just can it and do it tomorrow, no problem at all. And don't do anything long and don't exert yourself too much. And then that Sunday, I checked the weather just before I went out, and it was like 38 degrees and but cloudy. So the real feel was something like 35. I thought, oh, that's reasonable for here. Yeah. So I thought I'd just do my normal 35 to 40K. And then I was just like, as soon as I started, the clouds just moved, and then there was just no hiding where I was. And yeah, I mean, I nearly passed that. I was far away, and then it really kicked in. I just had 5K to go, but I was like starting to be really dizzy. Like it was a Jeep track trail, but I couldn't sort of like keep on the trail. And eventually I got to my motorbike, and I got in all my recovery stuff. I couldn't drive, so I had to sort of wait and just wait out and not wanting to pass out, because obviously the last thing you want to do right now is go to a hospital. So so I was just all the advice that I'd been given all week long, it was just like, you idiot, you've just not followed it at all. You've done exactly what you told those guys not to.
Were you feeling something before you went out? Like you weren't feeling good when you started, or was it just because of the change in the weather and you got caught out?
Yeah, I was feeling great, and I just wasn't taking on, like the first 2 hours was fasted. So
Right.
then by the time I took in sugar, it was just probably too late. And then, I was dehydrated. So then I checked afterwards how dehydrated it was, and it was severe, but I just collapsed on my bed when I got home after drinking loads of banana smoothie, and then and I was just like, I felt drunk, and just thinking, you shouldn't have done that. But
So
yeah, I mean,
if we could, let's camp out on this topic of fasted training, because I am not a fan of all of the emphasis that's being given to fasted training right now. And the reason for that, and I'd love to hear your response, but I'll just share, because I want to share this and make sure, make it clear what I promote. And I think that it is not worth it. The doing longer or high intensity training fasted, to me, is just completely, it's not worth the risk. I think that based off the science that I've seen, a good middle path, because there are some benefits to fasted training that I'm sure, you could talk about, other people could name some of the benefits, but there is there's science out there that would suggest really all you need to do, or if you do 20 minutes fasted, very low intensity, like easy jogging, 20 minutes fasted first thing in the morning, that is enough to basically train your body to produce the metabolic whatever. I'm not exactly sure what it is. I think I guess it would be the ketones. See, and again, this is an area where like I'm not an expert, but me looking at what I've looked at, it doesn't make sense if you can get that effect in just 20 minutes, right? And then take in a bit of fuel, make sure that you get your sugars up, and then you can, if you can get the benefits in just 20 minutes, I don't understand, and super low intensity, I don't understand why people are going out there and doing like super, super long fasted training or super high intensity fasted training. So that's my perspective on it, is I would much rather keep my immune system healthy rather than doing like a really hard fasted workout and crashing my immune system and, potentially delaying recovery. To me, I would much rather have a more conservative approach. Like, look, sometimes I'm not going to like wake up and get sugar into me like right every day. I'm not like that. I like a lot of mornings I'll wake up, I'll move around, I'll do some stretching, I'll do some light, walking, or, commuting somewhere on the bike or something like that, fasted, and then have a bit of, whether it's a banana or some fruit when I start my session. And to me, it's just not worth it. But I mean, do you think that is that something you promote, is fasted training? Like, for your athletes and what you do yourself, like, are those things different? Do you take risks that maybe you wouldn't, advise other people to? And if so, then what's your thinking behind the whole fasted training?
Yeah, listen, it's a good point. And, one of my first sponsors was a nutrition company. Yeah. And so I got to work closely with all the departments because they needed to raise the game in endurance. And so one of those departments was new product development. And one of the things you realize is with products and with studies, it's really, really difficult to do a double-blind study with a decent size control group, right? So even, for instance, vitamins, let's say water, right? Really, really simple. You can't say that water hydrates you. You can only say we think it hydrates you, because you can't obviously put 100 people in a room and say you're not going to drink water for a week and see how you get on. And you guys over there, we've got water, yeah? And it's the same with, and that's a really simple one, but the same with vitamin C, yeah? You can only say it may help your immune system. And so the only thing I would say is and this is part of the beauty of the sport, is everyone's different and you're a part of your own ongoing experiment. Yeah. So what works for you might not work for me, and vice versa. And what I've seen is like some of I'm not sure if you've read some of the world record holder for 24 hours and running 100 miles is a guy called Zach Bitts, who I've met a few times. And he's follows a paleo diet, and does a lot of his fasted training fasted, and he has those records. And I started to follow a similar diet, which is now completely from paleo to vegan in the last 4 days, 4 years,
Or
and for me the
plant-based.
results have been amazing.
We'll say plant-based, right? Because you're not 100%, vegan, but plant-based, predominantly plants, right?
So yeah, if something's working for you, for me, you've got to change things slightly at a time. Because if you say, okay, it's like supplements, yeah. If you say, right, brilliant, I've got all these supplements now, I'm going to take them. It's like, well, which one of those works? I'm seeing improvements, but which one of those works, and which one's just has no effect? Which one is detrimental? So you have to sort of like incrementally add stuff, see what works for you, see what doesn't work for you, see what you were lacking in. Anyway, have a test ideally to see what you're lacking in. And obviously, whether you're a marathon runner, an Ironman, a 100K runner, you're pushing body to its max, right? So a lot of these studies, I don't know, I don't know. You just have to go with and again, it's the same thing with the coach. It's like, if you've got somebody telling you something, they need to really, really know you and really understand you. as much as possible. So you need to have a lot of contact with that person, ideally face to face, if not video. So I wouldn't push anybody. Like I have athletes that say, I just can't go out and run I can't go out and do an interval session or a long run fasted. Just can't do it. But I'll do it with my recovery runs, and that's fine. And then some people won't do anything with that; they'll just wait. The other benefit of it is, so my pre-race meal is 5 bananas blended in water, and I drink that an hour before the start. Whereas a lot of people that have porridge and cereals and stuff like that, takes a lot longer to digest. So when I add that before, and I'll obviously have that on a few of the long runs before the race that I'm aiming for, then it feels like rocket fuel, because I'm used to training fasted, and all of a sudden I have something inside of me. So yeah, it's all about, for me, it's all about power to weight ratio. So it's about burning fat. It's about optimized fat metabolism. It's about being able to tap into your fat at a really high heart rate. So I can run at marathon heart rate 85% and still be burning more fat than fuel. When I say fuel, I mean glycogen, and that, and I've been tested for that on the treadmill. So you can only say what works for you. Yeah.
So sorry, just to expand on what you said there. So you've been tested to see your metabolism and the energy source that you're using. Could you explain?
Yeah, so it's basically somebody's pricking your ear every 3 minutes. Yeah, similar to a lactate threshold or a VO2 max test if you've ever done one. But then they're checking for when you have the oxygen system on and everything, and then they're checking at what point, what heart rate percentage do you start to burn more fuel, more glycogen than fat. And I think for Zach, it's even higher than me. It's like 90% or something. So 90% of maximum heart rate, he's still burning more fat than fuel. So that's why the guy can go 24 hours and live on very few calories during that 24 hours.
Now, is that something you can train? Like, has it been shown that you can train that, or is it like a genetic, some people just can do it better?
Listen, I mean, we were all like, as I said, we're all a self-experiment. Yeah. So you sort of go, you speak to as many people as you possibly can. You absorb as much knowledge as you can, and you read as much as you can, and you follow stuff. You follow for an amount of time where you can see a benefit or not. And then if it works, you stick with it. It's as simple as that. So it really, really worked for me. It really changed my game. Going plant-based really changed my game. That really changed my game. Waking up first thing in the morning, and I lay my kit out the day before. So whatever the run I'm doing, the shoes that I'm wearing, whether if I'm out on the bike, everything's laid out. So there's no thinking time. It's just from bed to the coffee machine, drinking water, rehydrating, straight to the bar, which is just there. I'm doing core work, and then within 15 minutes I'm out of the house. So I don't have time. I've just programmed my brain that I don't have time to feel hungry, because I'm not expecting anything at that time. So, I think the point you make is it's interesting, because some people have this about tapering before a race, carb depleting, and then carb loading, right? Yeah. So I read an Australian study, and I tried this method. So the Australian study basically said, obviously the problem with that is you all of a sudden you're doubting yourself. You're more anxious because you're tapering anyway, so you're not able to train as much. So you feel strange. Then you're adding on top of that, you're not able to get the carbs in, so you're a bit grouchy. And then your immune system is lower because you're not getting the vitamins and the nutrients, and therefore the risk versus reward doesn't really make it worth it. And what you could do instead is the day before the race, go out and run your easy run, but for 2 minutes run at threshold, and then put a load of carbohydrates in afterwards. So I started to do that and saw a really, really good benefit from it as well. So I never carb deplete and load, just do that. So you have to try different stuff and see what works for you.
I do the same thing. I read some research that seemed to show what you were talking about there, that basically if you, like 24 hours before the race, you do, some short, hard efforts, like really short, but like hard. And then you make sure that you get carbohydrate, that it basically, it improves your ability to store more glycogen. Like you top up your glycogen stores more after
Yep.
having done the hard exercise than if you weren't, then if you say you took the day before the race off, right? You
Yep.
wouldn't store glycogen as well. So yeah, that is a similar thing that I do. But when it comes to race morning, you say that you have 6 bananas, right? Or like what,
Five,
five
five,
blended up.
five, five bananas. Yeah, 5 bananas blended in water and just an hour before the start.
So
So that means
why not train like that though? Why not train the way that you're going to race?
well, it's the same with gels, yeah. So I will for a few long runs, a few of the major long runs before a race, I'll use gels as well. Whereas most of the time I won't use gels. So it's the same as that. It's just you've got to get used to it, so there's no surprises on race day. But
Mhm.
my stomach's like it's really I don't have like a sensitive stomach. It's like an iron stomach. So whatever I put in, just it doesn't feel it anyway. So I mean, I really, really believe in fasted training and it works for me. So I think, yeah, you've got to, I don't, if you speak to really experienced guys and, I think cycling is well ahead of running, they'll tell you what they do. And a lot of cyclists don't think fasted training is good because they're on the bike for so long. A lot of cyclists swear by the first 2 hours is they're only drinking water. So just whatever works for you. And again, it's about like I think it's quite fun to make it an experiment, like an ongoing experiment for yourself.
Man,
Yeah.
I have to say though that I think it is an experiment, but I think that the risk of, say, I don't know, man, like people bonking, people getting into crashes, like I just feel like there's people, if they're on the bike and if they're training fasted and they, I don't know, could increase risk for accidents, but I don't know. That's just me talking out of, possibility. I could be completely wrong about that. But the other thing is too, I mean, if it's the case that you need, like, like everybody doing fasted training, or everybody that I've spoken to is having coffee every day. And
Yeah.
in my opinion, coffee, I mean, in my experience, and I've definitely had experience with coffee, is that, like, if you're having coffee every day and you're getting that daily, like, stimulation that, on your hormones, like, it's not the greatest. At least for me, I didn't find, like, hey, maybe it's working for other people. And, like, at least with coffee, as long as you're not putting milk in your coffee, you're not necessarily, depending on harming others for that. So if people want to go ahead and do that, that's up to them. But, like, I find with caffeine personally, like, I stay away from caffeine. I definitely don't have daily caffeine. I might have, like, some coffee flavored ice cream every now and then, but, like, I'm not using it on a daily basis. And then
Yeah.
coming into um, coming into a race, I want to know that I can have that caffeine in the race, and I can actually use caffeine to get that stimulation at the end of a race, particularly, right? So if I'm not usually having the caffeine, then it is that much more potent in the race. So that's why I sort of, I don't know, I have a different approach than you on the caffeine. And when it comes, it's the same thing when it comes to, or like, the way that other people might think about fueling with carbohydrates, right? And I guess the problem I have with that is that there's people have sort of demonized, you know, eating enough carbohydrates. Like, people who are doing fasted training, a lot of them are doing low carb. I don't know what your macro ratio when you're eating is like. Maybe you can respond to that in a minute, but basically to just say that, you know, I have a different approach on caffeine, and the approach on fueling, I think, is based off of also just, yeah, making sure that you're on a daily basis able to recover and basically able to get through the training. And I think that for a lot of people, they have difficulty maintaining, a regimen, or, motivation. And, they're seeing a lot of this advice that says, you should be afraid of carbohydrates, and you want to make sure that you train fasted, and, you want to stay in keto, and, just have coffee to get through the morning. And people are under eating, they're using it they end up under eating, and they end up doing damage to their hormones. And I think it's irresponsible advice. I mean, to be honest, I mean, to be frank, because the thing is, everybody is an experiment, but I think there are certain fundamentals like hydration and like, proper fueling. But then when I say this, I mean, what is proper fueling? We're pretty sure that plants are the way to go. I don't really have any issue with people. If people want to eat higher fat and they want to eat, they want to time their eating differently. Like, I'm open to these conversations. That's why I think it's interesting to have you on, because we have sort of different philosophies, and I'm not trying to say that necessarily my way is better than yours, and that other people may not find other ways that work for them. But I think that maybe we could, like, are there certain things that we could agree upon in terms of, hydration maybe, or like what do you think is sort of, what is,
So
as a coach?
hold on a second. So you just said that you don't have coffee usually, yeah? But
No.
then when it comes to race day, it's that much more potent, right?
Yeah.
And I've just said I don't usually eat before I run, yeah? But
Mm-hmm.
on race day, I have bananas in a blended in water because it's that much more potent.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference?
So when you're talking about glycogen, right? Like muscle
Yeah.
glycogen, it's simply a
No.
matter of,
I don't mean in terms of immune, in terms of breakdown or anything like that. I just mean in terms of the philosophy. You're using something on race day that works for you. I'm using something on race day that works for me. Shouldn't it be each to their own? Like if you, and here's the thing with irresponsible advice. If you read the internet and go off and do it without sort of like really figuring it out and reading many opinions and then asking a responsible, like, professional for their advice, who's to blame?
mm-hmm.
Like, is that not your responsibility as an adult?
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. But I think that, I think a lot of people are buying into this idea that they need to train fasted in order to burn fat, right? Like, I think that a lot of the reason that people are doing fasted training is because they've been told somewhere along the line that unless you're basically in ketosis, or unless you're in a fasted state, you're not going to be burning fat. And that's not true. Like, that's just factually incorrect. And I think that is a myth that is, perpetuated. Like, I could be having, if I could have sugar water throughout my Ironman. Guess what? I'm still burning fat. It's not like my body stops burning fat unless I'm in ketosis. And so, like, I think it's one thing if you are trying to, push your athletic performance to the best, of your ability. I think it's another thing if we're talking about, like, general nutrition advice for people who are, who are getting started, and they're looking for a template. I think if we're going to give people a template, I don't think that template should be, don't eat food at all when you're exercising, make sure that you're fasted every session. I think that's,
But then I would argue you shouldn't give people a template, right? Because everyone's different. Yeah. I just think there's stuff you need to figure out. Like, whatever this, I think one of the things we were speaking about is, you get to Chiang Mai and, all of a sudden it's like, you see the t-shirts and you see, the yellow kits, right? And
yeah, people in the vegan kits and all that. Yeah.
And it's like, go vegan. It's like, okay, yeah, but I'm riding my bike up the door, yeah, up the door. And you're like, okay, how long you been riding for? It's like 3 weeks or 6 months and you're seeing, this is just nutrition we're talking about, right? But you're seeing people who've just started riding a bike, right? Never rode as a kid, never fell off a BMX, never fell off a mountain bike, and they're being instructed by people to ride up a mountain and then ride down in traffic, where you know what it's like, the tuk-tuks and the songtowns, they don't care about so much about cyclists. So what's more dangerous, not eating before you exercise in order to try and burn fat and see if that works for you, or advising people to get on something they've never ridden before, clip in for the first time, and then up the door, because that's where you're going to meet all your mates.
Yeah, it's a fair criticism, man, for sure. I mean, talking about, for people who may not know, Durin rider Harley, he had this festival in Chiang Mai, and it really brought a lot of people to Chiang Mai for cycling, and a lot of them were noobs, and meaning, people who haven't, as you say, they don't have any cycling experience. And I think, to your point, what it comes down to is people are responsible for, what they do. They're responsible for looking into what their diet is, what their fitness regimen is, and ultimately, coming back to why you and why I myself, we're both self-coached, because we, like, I don't think it's, I mean, it's half the fun, man, planning on my own training and, like, figuring out what I want to do. But I think at some point we do need to look to others for, or at least to learn from their experience, right? To learn from their experience. And, if somebody's trying something that works for them, it's up to us to decide whether we want to try that or not. And I think where I sort of draw the line is when it comes to veganism, for sure. Because for me, and this is, I think we could talk about this, because I mean, as I mentioned before in the intro, you are not, you're not 100%, if we can put a percentage to it, vegan. You will occasionally have, some cheese on your pizza, or, some yogurt, things like that. But you would say, what are you, 95, 98% plant-based? I mean, maybe you could speak to that. I mean, because I think, if we could talk about some of our differences in nutrition.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'll tell you how I became vegan if you want. If somebody says, "What's your diet?" I would say I'm vegan. Yeah. And they say, "Wow, 100% vegan." I say, "No. If I go out for an Italian, I have margherita pizza, which includes cheese. From time to time, sometimes I spice up my porridge and have yogurt on it, natural yogurt." And I was coming to Chiang Mai, and I was in the race scene and stuff like that, and I met a lot of vegans, and there's different personalities, like there is every group, and there's some great people in Chiang Mai, in all the groups, like digital nomad, cryptocurrency people. They're all going to talk you to death about what they do, but it's fascinating. It's fascinating for a certain amount of time, yeah. So I was really interested. I was like, wow. I mean, you're doing this and asking the questions, and but a lot of the time, I wouldn't need to ask questions, because it's literally the first topic on a lot of people's brain. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's like comes before anything else. And I think, anyway, so I started riding with a really good guy. Yeah? I was like almost a professional cyclist, really young, like 21 years old at the time. And I was 20, I must have been, whatever, like 34, 33, 33 years old, so a lot older. I'm just riding with this kid because he's smart, and I had never asked him a question. We'd ridden together lots of times, a lot of hours together, and then one day I said, "Why?" I said, "Vigard, you probably know him, yeah?"
Yeah.
So Vigard, why are you vegan? And he said, really simply, and this is the Norwegian personality as well, very simply said, "Because animals have just as much right to live as we do." And for me, it was that simple, yeah? It was like, I've grown up all my life loving animals, surrounded, like my mum, we had 50 dogs at one point, yeah? Dogs everywhere all over my house and in my gardens, lived on a farm. And just that simple phrase, not him badgering me about stuff. He would still hang out with me, even though I had, a completely different diet. He wasn't interested in that. He was interested in me as a person. So when I asked him, he gave me that, and it was just so simple, and so it struck a chord. And then I was like, right, I'm going to try this. And then when you see the recovery benefits and the energy benefits, then I was sold, and never went back. But yeah, I mean, my point with the whole thing is with you guys is like, if it's you don't even have to open your mouth. Yeah, if you're walking towards me, you've got like the full kit on, right? It's like it's literally like walking up to a guy dressed as Darth Vader. You don't by any chance like Star Wars, do you? It really feels like that, and you're like, okay, and you sort of like you sort of avoid them because you know that's going to be the topic of discussion after a while.
I'm a huge Star Wars fan, by the way, and I know what you mean. wearing, you're referring to, yeah, if people are out there wearing, a cycling kit that's got the word vegan across it, a lot of cyclists are wearing, some of them have more subtle designs, but definitely in Chiang Mai over the past few years, there's a lot of people who, more so, not so much now, but I would say maybe 2-3 years ago, 4 years ago, that there were a lot of, I think it's fair to call them sort of durian rider clones, and people who are, following his advice. And
Yeah.
I think, to your point, not maybe thinking for themselves, or maybe they are thinking for themselves, like, who knows if they're actually following his advice, but they're so convinced that they're following his advice that if anything went wrong, then it's his fault, right? And I
Yeah.
think that, I mean, we could go into that,
Yeah, and
that
don't get me
detail.
wrong. Just on this guy, his name's Harley, right?
Yeah, durian rider. Yeah,
I've seen some of his videos. The guy's funny. Yeah,
yeah.
I'd love to sit down with him. He's the type of guy you'd have a beer with, no problem at all. Like, I think it's funny, but I think once you start, like you say, once you start blindly going into something you know nothing about, and you just, you want the community feel, the story about the rehabilitation centers and stuff like that. Some people can be a little bit lost, and if they find something they can latch onto and don't really sort of do any background work because it looks like the right route for them, that can be quite dangerous, I think. So I don't think he's a bad guy at all. I think he's doing great things.
Yeah.
Just yeah, even the term "go vegan," it's like that's a direct order, and I'm a rebellious person. Like, if you tell me to
Mm-hmm.
do something, I'm
Mm-hmm.
probably not going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you say, "I'd fancy doing this," it's just there's just different ways to word stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the great thing, as I said, like before, that's the great thing. We can sit down and have a chat. You have one opinion, I have another opinion, and we can find the common ground. Whereas you say, you think like that, and therefore I don't want to speak to you. For me, that's bizarre. Whereas if I'm saying you guys, this sounds like us and them sort of thing, but it's not. It's like if the vegan community said, do you know what? Like, I don't think we're going to convert the entire. It is the best way for the world to function, without a doubt. Yeah, I'm completely sold on it.
A vegan world.
Yeah, but if we try and convert the whole world in one go, I don't think it's going to work. And so, if we just say, why don't you just try eating less meat and see what happens? Yeah, I think that's, if you was looking at this as a sales tactic, I think that would be a smart move.
So
Like,
this is for sure a point where we would have to, I have a different opinion for sure, because the thing is, we need to, in my opinion, advocate for what we want. We need to lay the cards out. We need to say, this is how it is, and
yeah,
this is how it should be. I mean, if we accept the way that it is now, most people, if you show them footage of what happens in the production, show them the real deal of what animals are going through, people would agree. Most people would agree. There are some people who would say, oh yeah, that doesn't care, but don't care about that. But most people, if they're honest, they do care. They see what's really going on, right? Most people would agree that we should change it. And it's just a matter of saying it how it is and accepting that some people are going to resist the message. I think that we cannot be responsible for, I mean, as sort of uncomfortable as it is, for certain people and in certain situations, like, people are advocating for veganism in all kinds of different ways, whether it's wearing a cycling kit, making YouTube videos, going to slaughterhouses, protesting on the street, you name it, like talking about it at the Oscars, like you can advocate in so many different ways. And I think that it actually is very important that we advocate for, we advocate unapologetically. We don't need to be sorry. We don't need to pander to people's difficulties and how hard it is to go vegan. We can acknowledge that, if you want to be vegan, you have to go against the normal way of life. You have to go against tradition. You have to take a stand against injustice. That's what it's about. And if we come out there and we say, what we're doing is we're talking about a justice issue, we're talking about what's happening to animals, we're not, if we don't speak in a way that is matter of fact and that does justice to their situation, and we come out and we say, oh, wouldn't it be nice if you could just eat a little bit less meat, where is our integrity? If we're actually if we're talking about health, okay, I could get it, because it's just like, less, less risk, reduce your risk. You're just talking about them. But this is an issue where there are victims. And if we're not speaking fully and honestly for those victims, what does that make us? What kind of integrity can we have? So yeah, I have to wholeheartedly disagree that we should be saying, our message should be eat less meat, or, I think that is pandering to people's excuses, and I'm not a fan of it, So I think,
hold on a second. I just told you how I was sold on it, yeah?
yeah,
And bear in mind, I also tell you that I was paleo diet, like, I don't know what high percent protein, yeah?
right.
Turkey, chicken, beef,
So
lot
when
of
you
fish.
were riding with Vigard and you decided to, yeah, so I understand it's important to paint the picture, right? So you're coming into this,
Yeah,
you're in Chiang Mai, right? You're seeing
yeah,
all these vegans flying around, and
yeah.
what are they doing here? And I'm, paleo is the way to go. That was where you're coming from, right? So you felt obviously a lot of resistance to all these people, but this Vigard, you, for some reason, because he seemed more personable, he wasn't talking about it, you were okay with spending some time with him. And
No,
then,
but if you go to a nudist beach, you don't need to take your clothes off, right?
right,
If I go into if I come to Chiang Mai, I can still have a conversation with somebody who goes to Doi Pui and drinks his own piss for a week. Yeah, I'm fascinated. Why do you think that's going to help? Yeah, I'm really open minded. You tried ayahuasca, great. What was it like? You tried LSD. What was it like? I'm really intrigued. So I'm really fascinated. But then you've got some people like, oh, wow, quiet, yeah? Just, all right, no worries. Continue talking, but I'm just going to walk in this direction. Or you get somebody who's like Vigard's method. And for me, and then you're going to have like personality spectrums of what works for certain people.
yeah,
I just think you're not going to, I respect what you're saying, yeah? You
mm-hmm.
need to act with integrity and shout it out, and the people advocating it in different ways. But I just don't think the whole world is going to shift over straight away. Bear in mind that I feel as if I'm on your side right now.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So I would love to see the whole world
mm-hmm.
go vegan,
Yeah,
right? But right now I'm thinking strategy with you. Yeah.
yeah,
How can you get the most amount of people over? So my way of doing it is the way that I learned from Vigard. If I'm not going to shout it out, I'm just going to, if I'm posting something on nutrition, like this week, I don't know whether you saw like making a smoothie and then making porridge. I just mentioned that obviously I'm going to leave out the yogurt, yeah, because I don't want people to just think that I'm not trying to cover it up that I have those things,
mm-hmm.
but I'm just trying to say that I have bananas, I have plant-based almond milk, my
Mm-hmm.
protein supplement right now is brown rice protein. This is what I do, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and this is why. And then more often than not, people say, "Oh, what? You don't eat meat?" No, I don't eat meat. No, and you can run 100K and you don't eat meat, yeah, and you're like, well, yeah. I mean, we adapt really well, and it was actually I initially tried it, and then when I saw the recovery benefits and how beneficial it was to my training, that was it. There is no ever turning back for me, right? So I think that's a powerful message and a powerful story, rather than you should do this. Oh, who are you and why?
Mm-hmm.
And then you're on the back foot, yeah. So I think different things will work. Don't get me wrong. There's going to be those people that whatever certain icon says, let's call him an icon, yeah, they're going to do it. So if he says remove your brakes and go down Doisitep, they're going to do it, yeah. Whereas other
Or
people,
Joaquin Phoenix, if he mentions something, people will just do what the celebrity does because they're the celebrity, or
yeah,
whoever it is that they listen to, right? Whoever they,
yeah.
yeah. And I guess what I would say is, it really, all it takes is for people to look at it. And to your point, there are people who will be turned off if somebody's out there in the street, holding a sign up protesting, or what maybe somebody does, I don't know, some other obnoxious, as some people may call it, like an obnoxious,
Yeah.
too outrightly, I don't know, confrontational. Like if you're approaching it in that kind of a way, If somebody does that, you're going to turn certain people off, right? But other people are going to be affected by it. Like not everybody's going to be like you were coming from a certain place, you know, and you had a certain experience, and like had you been a different person, maybe there would have been somebody else who was, you know, riding around with the vegan on the kit that you connected with, and you know, like you never know. So where I come from is like, look, you just described your approach, right? You said the way that you advocate, and I think that you need to do you. And I think that for somebody else, if their way of advocating is, you know, finding a way to channel their anger by going to a protest and getting out of the house where they're probably, you know, holding off getting in a fight with their family every second of the day because they're vegan and their family doesn't get it and they want to go out and shout to the streets, then like, do it. Like from my perspective, because I think what it all comes down to is it's just a numbers game. It's just a numbers game of how many people are doing their thing in whatever way they're doing it. How many people are doing that and actually speaking up and, you know, being an example, and the more people doing that, right, the more seeds get planted, the more people think about it, which is, like I said, I think it's really all that needs to happen is people need to have time to look at what's really going on. Like, watch Dominion. That is what I'm really promoting most right now, is for people to watch the documentary Dominion. Have you seen it?
No.
So do me a favor, man. When you get the time, go and watch that, and then let me know what you think, because I think if people were to see, it's just a very honest look at agriculture in Australia. It's an Australian documentary, but it's not just a look at agriculture. It's a look at how we're treating animals, right? What are the animals that we're using on this planet, and how are we treating them? It's literally just a matter of people being able to take their eyes, put them on that footage, and understand the reality of the situation. And no matter what way they get to that, whether it's from going plant-based for a few years because they saw somebody who's, you know, talked about the athletic benefits, and then they finally hear about this documentary, and then they've now been opened up to it enough to actually sit down and watch the documentary all the way through, rather than, you know, somebody getting turned off. Like, who knows how it's all going to go down? We just got to talk about it. And that's why, that's why I really wanted to have you on today, because I know that you are not entirely, like, I wouldn't have, you know, margarita cheese on my pizza. I wouldn't make those exceptions, because like I've seen what goes into those products. I mean, say what you may about the happy farms, to me, it's the principle of using animals at all, and when we could choose not to. And you know, and I don't want to make this into a debate. Like I said, man, I just, like, I think we're having a good discussion here, and but from my perspective, like that's what it's about, is getting the message out there. And I think that what you're doing athletically is it's an amazing way to get it out there.
So let me ask you a question. Yeah, do you go on protests and vegan protests?
What do you mean by protests? I do street demonstrations. So street demonstrations where we basically, what we'll do is the cube of truth, which is taking a screen, whether it's a TV or a laptop or a tablet, showing footage of what happens to animals, and then allowing people to watch the footage if they're interested, and then outreach them. So I do these kinds of street outreach events.
Okay, what about, like, say a march, for instance, a very simple process, say a march for veganism. Do you go on that?
I actually haven't done a march for veganism. I've only done these street outreach events.
All right. Well, what about if you come across a vegetarian? What are you saying to that person?
So the vegetarians I generally want to know why, like what made them become vegetarian. And then if I can establish that the reason they're vegetarian is because they care about the well-being of animals, then it's usually just a matter of education around what happens in, you know, the dairy and egg industries, because usually vegetarians aren't eating meat, or maybe in the, you know, for seafood. So it's just a matter of education and connecting that reason. If somebody is vegetarian, if you care about the animals, isn't it logical to just be vegan and get animal products out of your diet, you know, completely? That's what I would say to a vegetarian. And you know, I think
I was on a march once, yeah. Feminist march, right? And I'm there with my girlfriend, and this girl in front of me looks around, sees it's a guy, yeah. I'm massively outnumbered, obviously, yeah. And she's like, "Get the fuck out of here!" I'm like, what? He said, what are you talking about? And my girlfriend tried to, she said, this is not about you. Like, I'm on your team. That's why I'm here, right? So you're going to obviously get the minority, right? But then it's the same. It's the same with if you have very vocal feminists and it's constantly on their brain, yeah. And obviously you think about this topic a lot, right?
I do.
Veganism. So you're constantly thinking about it, and so you're almost looking for those opportunities to have the conversation because like documentaries and you're probably reading all the latest stuff, yeah, and you probably really are an expert in this field, so you want to talk about it. Like for me, it's not the same with running because I honestly tried to avoid runners because I live it all the time. I want to meet different people, right? But then because you're so engulfed by it, you're obviously a product of your environment, and that's what you want to talk about all the time. So I think sometimes it's like then it becomes the language. If I feel as if I'm doing good thing for the planet and I was a vegetarian, maybe you class me as a vegetarian, and you said to me like it's just a matter of education, I would be like, okay, do you know what I mean? Like you're telling me that you're ahead of me in this game, and therefore what you're doing is right and what I'm doing is wrong. I wouldn't react well to that, and I don't think a lot of people would. So all I'm saying is I agree with you. You've got to put the message out there, and it's brilliant to see documentaries. Plenty of them before, yeah, that I've seen from Cowspiracy, all sorts, yeah. And it's brilliant when something's put together and yeah, somebody tries to debunk stuff and then they get them on Rogan, and then somebody tries to sorry, something just popped up on here. And then somebody goes on and actually says, actually, this guy was wrong, because I think it's brilliant. I really, really do. But just, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm just not sure it's the right thing just to like shout it from the rooftops all the time. Don't know. It doesn't work for me. It doesn't work for me.
If I guess so, one question in my mind would be to know like why, like what is it that allows you to still feel? Because I mean, based off of what I've seen, right? Like when I see the footage from the dairy industry, I know that I don't want a part of that, and that's why I wouldn't have a margarita pizza with cheese on it, whereas you might, and I would say I don't want to have I would just hold the cheese, right? I would just hold the cheese. So what is it, do you think, that like, I mean, do you not feel, I mean, like, are you justifying it to your, like when you do go to put that, or whether it's yogurt on the, like, is there a disconnect there for you, or is it like, what is it? Do you feel like it's necessary for nutrition, or is it just going against, like, are you just finding the path of least resistance in social situations, or like, I'm just trying to understand.
No, so it's not the path of least resistance. I don't think I need cheese or yogurt for dietary. I don't think I'm lacking in protein or anything like that. Not a case of anything like that. I just I like a certain pizza, and I feel like 4 years ago, before I was doing a lot of bad for the planet, and I feel I've changed, and I'm now doing, like you said before, 99% good for the planet. And then so I don't think it's perfect, but this is what I was saying before. If we just get more people to eat less meat, those people are not just going to stick on, okay, meatless Monday. They're not just going to do that. I think they will say, okay, I felt great on Tuesday, so I didn't eat meat on Tuesday either. And then all of a sudden, it's like, sample this, and I promise you it will work. And if you're that confident with your arguments, which I am about this diet, then people only need to sample it, and then it's going to be, and then you're sort of looking at other countries, like where I live in Granada. Andalusia is a massive place for bullfighting. I have friends that they watch bullfighting in bars like it's football, yeah, and you're just like, yeah. It's just horrifying. You're just like, what are you doing? Like, is this? And they're like, okay, it's tradition, and it's just, there's a massive economy behind it. And I say probably what you will say to me. We're going to look back on that and think what we were thinking. We were well past the date on that. And I think we're going to look back as well and say, what were we thinking? Eating animals and eating things that come from animals. I believe you. I'm told, as I say, I'm totally with you. Yeah. But I'm just thinking how, brainstorming with you. Yeah? How can you get the message across in a better way that's not a turn off? Because there was so many without meeting Vigard, there were so many people that literally, it's just having you know what it's like. You're in the middle of nowhere and you're in a coffee shop surrounded by people, yeah, and you're like-minded people to a certain point, and then all of a sudden the topic comes up and it's like, what you don't, and it's like, well, how are you gonna convince me that this is best if you don't even want to talk to me? I just wasn't understanding that. So
one of the things is, for sure, a lot of people are very, very affected by what they see when they see it. Like, you can imagine certain people seeing, like I had my dad on the podcast a few days ago, and we did a call like this, and I showed him footage from the dairy industry. And it was a 20-minute video, and we got 4 or 5 minutes in, and he wanted to stop, and a lot of people, when they see what's happening to animals, their reaction, and they can't help it really, is they're just outraged at like what happened and the fact that it is able to continue. So a lot of people are like very, very affected on an emotional level, and that's something that we need to remember. And that is not to say that that's the most effective way necessarily to advocate. I think for some people, getting hysterical like that and giving somebody a wake up, that can work. But for other people, it doesn't work necessarily as advocacy. But that's not to say it doesn't have its place. But just to sort of, just as a sort of explanation as to why I think some people can be very touchy, vegans particularly, like, let's say it, vegans can be very defensive and argumentative, like easily upset. And I think it's because they're thinking of the victims, right? They're thinking of the animal victims, and they, it just makes them feel sick to their stomach when they see somebody, that's eating these products. And so I think that's why you may have run into
I think it is we need to improve, don't we? And that message needs to improve in different ways. And I think hopefully the silver linings from this, then it's definitely a wake-up call on how we're treating animals and how we're sort of eating animals, and how these wet markets and stuff like that is crazy. But yourself, from spending so much time in Asia, can you imagine, like, China, the 1.3 billion Chinese people going vegan overnight? It's going to be a slow process. And it's like the Spanish culture is so embedded in jamon and tapas and things like that, and it's very, very difficult to be vegan in smaller cities in Spain. So we've got a way to go.
I hope we can go faster rather than slower. That's why I feel like, promoting, as I was saying before, sort of an unapologetic vegan message. I feel like that's putting the gas on. But I mean, I understand what you're saying about it slowing it down, because I do see that. And I think that you're right, that some people, if they're advocating in certain ways, they can be turning people off. But I don't know. I don't have the answers. And as I said, it's interesting to brainstorm with you about this, because I don't know. I don't think anybody knows what's the most effective way. That's why I default to do what you find most effective. And that's what I would say too.
Well, I don't know. Obviously, this is you're talking to the masses, right? And you're talking about social media and stuff like that, where you can hit a lot of people. So of course, you're not going to come up with the secret, like, silver bullet. But in sales, you need to find, first of all, the need of the person. And maybe this is what Vigard did with me, right? He found out about me, found out what makes me tick, what I really like, and that I actually cared about animals, but I still ate them. And then once you know the need, then you can actually hit home with the sales message, yeah? Mm-hmm. So although I don't want to sound as if we're trying to sell a product or something like that, then everybody works a little bit different. So just think, yeah, some people operate differently. That's all.
So some people would say to me in this situation, if I'm talking to you as somebody who will still occasionally eat, dairy products. So let's say so by definition you would be vegetarian, right? Like some people would not. Some people would argue if you call yourself a vegan, yet you still occasionally eat, some foods that come from animal, they would say you shouldn't be using the word vegan. You should be using the word vegetarian because you're still contributing. And they would tell me that in this situation, I need to hold you accountable, right? Like I need to basically blame you and like make you feel guilty, because unless you feel that feeling of guilt, there's no way that you would change. So, I mean, what do you have to say? Like, if I were to do that, and I'm not doing that this whole conversation, because like I said, I think you're a super fascinating guy, and like I want to talk with you about other subjects as well. But it is interesting to me why why it's not something that you've stopped doing. I mean, it's kind of hard to not put you in the hot seat here, but I'm very curious as to like, is there, like, do you see yourself being, like to stop eating those foods at all in the future? Or is it something that is it perhaps you're holding on to like an old piece of, I don't know, your identity, or like, what is it that would stop you from going and saying, I'm never having, animal products again?
No, but to answer your first question, yeah, how would I react to that question? Yeah, if you said, okay, you have the certain people in your group that would say you need to make this guy feel guilty, yeah, then I would say this is absolutely nuts. Yeah, you're literally saying you cannot be in our group. We're a good group. We're doing good for the planet. You can't be in our group because you eat cheese and a bit of yogurt from time to time. You're literally saying that to me. And I'm like, right, if those are the rules of your group, I really don't want to be a part of it, because I think I think you're doing a great thing, but I think you're going about it the wrong way. That's what I would say. I'd say, if you're telling me I can't be in your group, because what's the best way? If you want to be a triathlete, yeah, you don't know nothing about triathlon. The internet's not yet invented, right? You want to be the best triathlete possible. You need to join a group, right? And through that, you're gonna sort of get better at swimming, the biking, and the running, right? But you're telling me I can't come in and learn your ways because I eat a tiny little bit different to you. That's what you're literally saying. And I think that's the main key problem with vegans.
But the thing is,
because you're saying, Jason, you're saying, listen, I've done my research. I know my stuff. I'm more educated, and then I know the topic. You can't be in our group because you do something slightly different. I think that's the problem. Well, I would say this instead. Sorry, I'm going on a little bit.
No, go ahead.
Come and join us. Mm-hmm. Come and join us. Eat with us. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I didn't say, all right, well, like you just said in a nice way, like, all right, like it's been so long since I ate cheese. Like, just even I don't want to put you off your dinner, but even the thought of it, because I've seen all these videos now. You should watch this, like exactly what you said. I will go and watch that now. Yeah. Mm-hmm. For me, that's like more of, hey, come here. I've got a bit of advice for you, as opposed to sorry. And then all of a sudden it's like, I told you, there's many bad experiences with people just being like, what? And you experience it in other things as well, and it's like, wow. I mean, okay. Yeah. Well, if you don't want me to join the group, I'm not going to try and get in. Mm-hmm. I don't care. Like, I'll be my own person. So, yeah, that's what I'd say to that.
I appreciate you being a good sport in this conversation, and I'm trying to keep it as cool as possible. I think it's
really good. Really good.
I really think it's just important to have these conversations, because I mean, genuinely, I mean, from my perspective, being totally transparent, I would be happier to say to somebody, that we can advocate and be nice and hold people accountable. We can do all these things. It's not a matter of, what I think what I want to say is that it really is sort of it's a tricky path to maintain a situation where you're able to have conversation without getting people feeling defensive so that they block off to the message, right? It's a tricky balance between being cool, right, and saying the truth, and allowing people to feel accountable for the truth, because it's almost like we're sharing this message, which is like, somebody said, why are you sharing like negative videos? Like, I'm doing all these TikTok videos, right? Where I'm educating, like I'm just saying, I'm getting people thinking, I'm asking questions, but people take it as judgment and people take it as negative because I'm highlighting this injustice that's happening and the people are contributing to. And the whole point is I just want to get it out there so that people can see it and say, hopefully say, wow, I don't want to contribute to that. So there's this balance between, like, being, as I was saying, just sort of, honest, being unapologetic, but on the other hand, like not getting people's defenses up. And I think that's, if we can figure out like ways to more effectively do that, like get the message out without getting people defensive, I think that can be really helpful. So I think,
if you looked at this as, you said you want to do this sooner rather than later, yeah? So if you looked at this as a curve, right?
Right.
Wouldn't it be better to have me on your side and for me to be putting out the message and being on your team? And then we've got like, there's another person who's also putting out the message. And although that person's not perfect, it's more us than he is them who eat meat all the time, right?
Here's the thing is, when it comes to influencers, right? And like, part of me is saying like, oh, we shouldn't be talking about the fact that you, like, maybe you haven't even eaten, as you said, like maybe now you're not even eating, like maybe now you wouldn't make the decision to have cheese on your pizza, whatever, like who knows? But part of me is saying like, we shouldn't even be talking about this difference, because it would be better to put out the message that you're fully vegan and there's no questions asked, right? But then the other part of me is like, well, I want to make sure, right, that because you said like, you're basically, you have the same mission, we're on the same team, right? I want to welcome you to that team, but at the same time, I want to make sure that you really understand the whole picture. And that's why I say, like, if you haven't seen Dominion, it's good to watch it, and just to really make sure, because this is the thing, right? A lot of vegetarians think that it's enough just not to eat meat, and that a lot of vegetarians have this idea of like the happy cow, right? The cow that has to give milk. They still have these sort of justifications, and I just, to me, it's like the reason why. And I don't think that that's right to have that sort of, if you're only vegetarian, you're not part of a club, you're now an enemy. I think that's very dangerous, that's toxic, right? But I do think it's important, as I say, just to educate and just to make sure that, people understand the full picture, right, of what veganism is. Because really, if you say vegan is like, you're not supporting exploitation of animals. You're not seeing animals as commodities just to be used by humans as we see fit. By being vegan, you're saying, I don't believe in that. So it's just to be clear about the terms,
Yeah. Okay, let's look at it this way, right? And you have to. You probably got loads of viewers that like totally in your corner. I'm aware that like I'm not like fully engulfed with the subject all the time yet, so I'm really happy to learn. But I'm just sort of thinking on the spin here, right? From an economics standpoint, I don't eat beef and I don't drink milk, right? So if there was more vegetarians, there's going to be less demand to have cows on the planet, yeah? So there's going to be less and less and less cows, because eventually we only want cheese from them, right? There's going to be less and less and less cows. So the price of cheese will go up, and then there'll be less and and they'll be like, cheese is no longer a viable option, right? So then they're gone.
It's tricky when you talk about economics, because I mean the animal agriculture industries are heavily subsidized, at least in most, if not like most of all countries will have, so they're not, and the thing is where milk comes from, where cheese comes from, where eggs come from, where chickens come from, like they're all connected because they're all using the animals, right? Like in the dairy industry, for example, like those dairy cows, when they're not producing enough milk, they'll be slaughtered for beef. And it's just perpetuating the use of animals in general. So it doesn't really, from a vegan perspective, it doesn't make a difference whether that animal is being used for the milk or whether it's being killed for meat, right? I don't know if
but what would the world, how would the world be different right now if the whole world was vegetarian? Right. In terms of, okay, there's something, again, you're the expert here. There's something like 40 billion chickens on the planet, right? And 25 billion cows. Is that true? Around about, let's say around about, yeah? Something
Yeah,
like that.
like you're saying, I'm not an expert on all these kinds of figures. I'm just, talk about veganism.
How would the world look different in terms of those figures if there was only vegetarians living here? There was no meat eaters. We weren't breeding these animals for meat. So nobody's eating pork, nobody's eating beef, nobody's eating, nobody's drinking milk.
The thing is,
vegetarians drink milk though.
The thing is, from my perspective, I want to abolish all animal exploitation. So like,
me too.
So that's the thing, right? Is if that's the goal, because you're asking like, what would the numbers be different? Like the numbers would be less probably, but the numbers wouldn't be abolished. And as long as there's still that mentality that we can still, use animals for whatever purpose, we never get rid of the real problem, right?
Then I think you're trying to. It's like the recreational marathon runner who's trying to run sub-2 marathon. Honestly, that's how it seems.
You think it's just not going to happen?
No, I just think it's going to take a lot longer if that's the approach, because you could see straight away that it would be so much less demand. It doesn't matter about subsidized industries. Eventually, somebody's going to stop subsidizing them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, if the world is not eating beef, pork, chicken, and is only vegetarian, for me that's a better world. There's less animal cruelty. Right?
So what are you saying, that we should, instead of advocating for veganism, we should advocate for vegetarianism?
No. I'm just saying you should be friendly with vegetarians because they're on your side.
So I think I agree with the first half. You should be friendly with vegetarians. I think you should be friendly with everybody, but they're on your side. I take issue with, because vegetarians are still saying that animal exploitation is okay. It's okay for us to artificially inseminate cows, to steal their babies from them, kill the males because we don't want the milk, keep the, that's all not okay. No part of the dairy industry is okay. And so that's why I say that's not really on our side, because it's like the side of the animals. If you're still contributing to what goes on in any kind of animal exploitation, whether it's monkey shows or, SeaWorld, it's this idea that human beings, right? Who are we? Why are we, getting?
I agree with I agree with you. Yeah.
And so that's why I think what maybe the intent. That's why I always ask the intention, right? Like when you ask, like, what would you say to a vegetarian, right? I always want to I just want to establish, because vegetarians are vegetarian. Most of them are vegetarians for good reason, the ethical reasons. That's why a lot of people go vegetarian, right? So that's why I say, and I don't mean to, when I said, that I would try to say that it's an issue of more education. I'm not trying to say that, like, look, I know way more than you and you just need, like, that's not what I want. I just think that I really do think that if people who are vegetarian for ethical reasons, if they look further into really the details of what happens in the dairy industry, and like really watch, the footage of, it all, and it's all of its, terror, because it's terrible what happens in the dairy industry. Then I think that they are on our side. Like, I would agree, they are on our side. I would just say that their actions, right? If somebody still, thinks that those products are okay, that I think it's just a matter of just thinking, giving it a bit more consideration as to whether they're really being, consistent with.
Do you know how many, I mean, this is probably a crazy question, but do you know how many vegans there are on the planet right now?
Oh man, like probably like, it's definitely less than 1%, well below 1% of the whole world's population. I would say. People who are vegan,
Do you know what percent of vegetarian?
Probably because of India. It's probably like in the world, it's hard to say, but I would say probably I would guess 10%. Maybe can't be higher than 20%. I don't think. Maybe higher.
In a way, say the Western world, right? So we've definitely gone through a phase, right, where it's actually cool. In parts of, when I go out in parts of London,
it's a trend. It's a certain trend, right? Yeah.
it's cool to be vegan. So if you're a vegetarian, you're almost there, right? So you only need to drop a couple of things and then you're there, right?
Right.
So I totally get what you're saying about, you know, the animals and exploitation and the way they view it, and they should be more, they should look at the footage and be more educated. It's just a matter of that. I get what you're saying, but why don't you as 1% become 10% and shout louder?
I guess it would be like it doesn't feel like it's fully addressing the issue. It would be like this, right? It would be like saying, what's a good analogy? I mean, you know, we're trying to get across this idea, right, that animals are not here for us to exploit, right? So we would be being hypocrites. Like if we're trying to say we shouldn't exploit animals, only exploit animals for this particular thing is still okay, right? Like to me, the vegan like argument, the vegan sort of philosophy, if we can call it that, that philosophical argument against animal exploitation, if within that argument you say, oh, let's make a little exemption here because we don't want to stop having
No,
milk,
you're not just making an exemption. Yeah, you're getting people on side that, like I said, almost there.
Yep. Yes,
and
getting
have a much higher chance of converting to vegan, right? So why not, you know, have those people on your team?
I think we definitely want them on our team. We want to think about how to get vegetarians to become vegan. I just think it's important to distinguish between having them become vegan versus vegans adopting you know, the vegetarian argument and saying let's promote vegetarian because people will probably never go vegan. I don't feel good about that. I want to make sure that yes, all these people who are vegetarian become vegan, because I think it's just a matter of education in most cases.
Fair point. Yeah, fair point.
You know, if they can come and to understand veganism, and then we have those numbers promoting the vegan message, best case scenario, right? For me, for sure. So I think that I just want to make sure, like for me, that's the important point, is making sure that it's the vegetarians who are adopting the vegan ethics and not the vegans who are sacrificing the integrity of our position by, you know, sort of, allowing some of the things that vegetarians, you know, still do to be viewed as okay. I don't think they are okay. You know.
Do you have friends that eat meat?
For sure, yeah. I still have. I mean, I'm still friends with, you know, people from high school and, you know, university and, you know, old friends for sure. Yeah.
Is it difficult for you to, like, can you not go out for dinner together? Is it difficult for you, or like seriously?
No, it's not. You know, I can put it aside and, you know, have conversations about other topics. And if people ask me about it, you know, I'm happy to talk about it. But I'm definitely conscious of not, you know, ruining everybody's night if I'm out on a, you know, it's like, I think it's, but, you know, for stuff like, you know, what the content that I put out, it is very much about, you know, I believe in it. And that's what I try to spread in the content.
Yeah. I think it's good. I think it's probably, I don't know, it's like, I don't drink alcohol anyway for the next.
Yeah, me neither.
I promised myself 3 years I'm not going to like drink. And it's been a year and a half or something like that.
Nice.
I don't miss it or anything like that. But obviously when I go to Ibiza once a year for a reunion with my friends, and it's just a different party. And it's just, I can be without alcohol, no problem at all. But then there's a change in the room if you've got one person who's not drinking. Do you get that feeling when you're sat around, like, you know, 9 of your mates and you're the 10th and you're the only one not eating meat? Do you get don't eat that, Jason's it?
Yeah, you do. I mean, it's not something that I can help, because I can't help, like, if people know that I'm vegan, right? Like, I mean, there's been, like, for sure, there's cases where people, you know, probably stopped, you know, hanging out with me because they just felt I literally, not a single word could come out of my mouth, but they know that I'm vegan. Or like you said, like, nobody's doing anything. Like if you're the only person, you've probably experienced it as well, right? If you're the only person who's not drinking, you know, you're not doing anything per se. You're not saying, oh, hey, everybody, I'm still sober. You guys are all still sober. Like, you know, but just the fact that you're not drinking, they pick up on that vibe. So likewise, it's the same thing. If you're the only one in the situation who's not eating the animal products, people pick up on it, whether or not you say something, and people will, you know, have negative feelings towards you, whether or not you say something, because this is the reality that I don't think we can avoid.
Mm.
is that, you know, people will want to shoot the messenger of animal rights. I don't think there's
Mm.
any avoiding that. I think that no matter who it is, if you say the animal rights message and you start speaking up for animals around
Yeah.
people who are used to, you know, exploiting animals, then they're going to blame you, right? It's not that you're just the messenger. You're just the one who's saying, hey, I'm going to speak up on the behalf of the animals here. But in
Mm.
their eyes, you're the messenger. So you're the one that they want to avoid. You're the one that they want to blame. They want to try to find, you know, faults. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm sure you've experienced it as well. People probably attack you saying, you know, why don't you eat meat? Like, what's so bad about me? You know,
Mm.
you can sense the resistance, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Yeah, you know, it is that way, and you can. Yeah, as I said, I'm the same with Viga's approach, and it works a lot for me, and it works that people try something and go about it the wrong way. I think I've seen you post videos about this before, where people just get into it and do the wrong things and don't realize the consumption, the amount of food they need to eat. So they're not getting the right, and then it clashes with anorexia or these different diseases.
Yeah,
I
for sure.
understand that as well. So you do feel responsible that if somebody's actually interested enough to ask you, you have to give them the right advice, because like I have 3 banana smoothies every day, and it's literally five, and 5 bananas. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
you know, from if you're not in the vegan world and you're sort of like, people are like, what is, it's too much potassium, you're gonna
Yeah,
die,
exactly. Yeah.
and too much sugar, and you know, how do you do that? It can't be possible to eat 50 in a day, and then you actually break it down, and then you said that I need this amount of calories. Like if I'm training for 4, 5, 6 hours a day,
Yeah.
this is the amount of calories I need. And how the hell are you going to eat all those if
Mm-hmm.
you're not having like lots of smoothies and stuff? So, um, yeah,
Well,
yeah,
one thing I'd love to know, and maybe we can end on this. I know we've been going for a while now, but we've had some good discussion, man. I really appreciate this. I think we've unturned some stones and gone to some territories that people are afraid to go. And
yeah, good. It's really good, and this needs to happen more often,
I think so
definitely.
too. I think so too,
Because
man.
yeah, because if you, I don't know, yeah, I don't know who you've interviewed before. I saw Shane the other day post something. It's really funny. We interviewed him on the same day,
Right,
about
we
his
did. Yeah, you did the Instagram with him.
yeah, and I suppose if I was, yeah, if you're always interviewing vegans, then it's great. They're already converted, yeah. So, but if you you know, this is a really good message you're putting out. You're really passionate about it. So, yeah, I'm just saying, you know, how about thinking about it different? Like, you know your stuff, and you're a good advocate for it because you're performing well in your sport as well. So definitely, you know, I'm not saying you do anything wrong, and you were never that person who came to me and it was like, oh, yeah, avoid that guy. It was never like that, yeah.
Yeah, and likewise, like I think that you know, I see all that you're doing, and you're doing, like, man, you're smashing as an athlete, and you're, you know, the fact that you've been able to, you know, you clearly have an open mind, because the way that you know, you came from what you were eating before, right? You were, like, as you said, like pretty much full on paleo, right? And you had the open mind to, you know, go riding, listen, you know, talk to Vigard, get to know him, like, you know, and you had the um you were what's the word out here, I guess, you know, you were open to changing and overhauling
Yeah,
your whole, basically, your belief system, right? You were open to
yeah,
questioning your own belief system, right? And
yeah,
to changing. So, you know, I thought you'd be a great guy to have a conversation with, and I'm
yeah.
glad we got to do it. But to take us out, because I don't want to leave people with the impression that you're just eating, you know, margarita pizzas and yogurt all day. I mean, take us through, like, what is like a typical day in the life of you, and your food. Like, give us like a typical training. You know, when do you train? How do you, you know, how do you feel after training and all that?
Yeah, okay. So yeah, you know, it depends on the year, but I'll give you Monday, for example. What like
Sounds good.
right now, I don't know what day it is. Like they're all in one day, right?
Yeah,
So
I know, man. It's all just,
we're on Wednesday. Is that right?
I'm pretty sure it's, well, actually, you guys are, yeah, it's Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday night for you, Wednesday morning
Yeah,
for
it's
you.
Wednesday night here. So
Yeah.
yeah. So Monday session. So wake up, go and do a hill session, running, and then come back, have a banana smoothie. So 5 bananas in water. I always have it in water if I'm going to do more work throughout the day, more sessions throughout the day. And then come back from that, do some stuff on Instagram Live, and then go out for a hike. Just walking a lot recently. I want to strengthen my lower legs. Just want to be out in the nature. And luckily, there's no lockdown. There's just a curfew in Thailand. And I'll come back from that. And I'll have a 5 banana smoothie again, and then I'll have a proper what I say is like my first breakfast, which is like porridge with pumpkin seeds, linseeds, sesame seeds, raisins, frozen berries, cinnamon, some almond milk or yogurt, and then I'll I'll have something else, and then I'll leave it sort of 2 or 3 hours. So there's something else will be something like maybe a snack, like a vegan protein bar or something like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And this is interesting for you. Like I told you about nutrition company in the beginning.
Yeah.
It's My Protein. I'm not trying to promote that, but the guy who runs that reckons that their vegan range is going to be the biggest range for them within 3 years.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, and they're already predicting that. And so a lot of people, especially bodybuilders and stuff like that, that take a lot of protein powders, are using plant-based proteins because they're seeing the benefits. And that's really good. So like I'm sat looking at some snacks now, and then I'll have that, and then I'll do a strength session. So after this, I'm going to do a strength session. And then after that, I will have like dinner with a banana smoothie. So dinner will be, right now it will be, I can't cook. So nobody's here, so no girlfriend, no. So I just so basic when it comes to cooking. So it'll be like sweet potato, rice. Literally, I'm literally talking like rice with pesto, right? Honestly, basic as that. And then like ginger garlic tea or something like that, and then yeah, rice pasta or sweet potato, and then dark chocolate before I go to sleep. Like 2 hours before I go to sleep, just at the end of the day, or almond butter, organic almond butter, or organic peanut butter.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think I get in enough calories. I don't really watch it all the time. Like I look at my weight, and it naturally comes out off as a byproduct. And it's almost like pacing now, you know, in running or cycling. It's almost like I'm used to it so much that I know that the training, as a byproduct of the training, the weight is going to come off just before the competition. So I usually get down to about 61, 62 kilos.
Would you say that you eat to appetite? Like you eat, or do you, I mean, you're not tracking calories, I'm guessing. You're just sort of.
No, I honestly don't. It's like, I just look at food as fuel. That's it. I love banana smoothies. I really love banana smoothies, but I love eating fruit. And the rest of it, I just see as fuel. I just see it as something I've got to have because I'm hungry and I've got a busy day tomorrow training. So yeah, and then I'm a big advocate of like 6 to 8 smaller manageable meals, including the smoothies, rather than 3 big meals and stuff like that through the day.
Mm-hmm.
So I view my metabolism a bit like a factory. So if you give it 3 big chunks of work, then it's going to take longer to get all the nutrients to the rest of the body, because you've got like say if it's a factory, you've got factory workers, needs, you know, there's going to be a surplus more often, and that'll turn to fat. And whereas with 8 manageable meals, I'm just like able to metabolize much faster. Yeah.
Right. And that's interesting. That's really interesting, because a lot of people are going more towards, you know, one meal a day, or, you know, time restricted, like very time restricted. So you're basically, I mean, what would the time window be? I mean, let's say from the time you, you know, so you wake up in the morning, what time do you normally train during the morning, or what time, you know, how long are you going fasted each day?
Yeah, so this is the thing. Like right now it's midnight. Yeah, so I'm just about to do a session. I'm not going to go to sleep till between 2 and 3 a.m. And
Okay.
and then I wake up 8 hours later. So I wake up tomorrow between 8 and 12. And then I'll go out like immediately. So before I go to sleep tonight, kit will be laid out. And then tomorrow is like 2 hours easy on the bike. if I have this obligation every day at the moment at a certain time to be online. So if I need to split that up, then I'll just do an hour and then another sort of hour or 2 hours on the other side. So, so yeah, always like the first 2 hours is always fasted. And if it's a really hard session, the first hour, yeah, and that's even interval training and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. But you're training first thing in the morning. So then you're
Yeah.
not having like you're not trying to eat everything within, 3 hours or 6 hours even.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, and again, it's like, it shouldn't be rocket science, but a lot of people get it wrong. It's like, you want to eat a lot of your calories earlier on in the day when your metabolism is high, and then sort of tailor that off. But I'm honestly, I'm not so strict, especially when I come to Thailand. It's like off season, so that's why you saw me on the bike so much, because I can cycle a lot more and use a lot more. I tend to build, although you've seen me, I'm really skinny. Tend to build quad muscle when I'm riding the bike a lot, because I'm pulling, especially when I'm climbing, and that's no good for me. Those muscles are no good for me when I'm running, because they're used in a different way. So I back off the cycling a little bit when I'm getting towards a race. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I answered the question you asked me, but
No, it's great. No, I didn't want to let you go before we got, a view of sort of your daily kind of routine and what food looks like for you. And
yeah.
And
Yes, it's sad. Like, don't get me wrong, I appreciate a really good meal. So when like a girl's cooking a meal for me, it's brilliant. Like I really like, wow, this is amazing. I wish this was happening every day. But then when I'm cooking for myself, it's just the fuel. So sweet potato is my go-to, bananas are my go-to, and then it's rice or pasta. So yeah, I don't know. It feels as if, again, it's one of those things that's just worked for me. And I'm not saying I'm the type of person who's like, if it's not broken, don't fix it. Because I'm definitely not. I'm definitely trying to always get, always progress and move forward. But yeah.
So you're not, just one more thing. So I want to clarify, because I mean, people listen for nutrition and stuff. Because I mean, you do fasted training, but it doesn't sound like you're making any effort to sort of eat like a high fat diet, right? Like you're eating lots of carbohydrates, it sounds like. And I mean, a lot of people who, advocate fasted training and stuff like that, they'll say, oh, you don't want, you want to keep it, high fat diet and all that. But to me, it doesn't make a lot of sense. I think what you said does make a lot of sense about, rather than trying to have one big meal where the excess is more likely to be stored as fat, you're better off to be having, maybe 3 big meals with some snacks, or, 6 meals if you include all the small meals throughout the day. I definitely agree with that. I think that it's, it's better to fuel throughout the day. And, but are you trying to eat, do you have any macronutrient ratio that you're trying to hit, or is it just?
No, again, this is like, if I had a coach and they were asking, I'd just be like, oh God, yeah. I mean, just put it out and I'll eat it, no problem. But I remember dating this physique model, and I even looking back, I'm like, how did this happen? But she was literally counting blueberries and weighing foods. And I think once you get to that level, it's like I always appreciate excess and somebody who's going to really like extremes, But that was just like, I just thought, oh, that's the other side of the fence for me. But the thing is, as well, when we're in Chiang Mai, how many options have you got to go and eat beautiful vegan food? So when I say I don't cook, I eat out every night when I'm in Chiang Mai. So here is much more difficult where I am in Krabi, because I moved because of the air pollution. But you've just got, I mean, everywhere is great. Everywhere is really, really great. So it's really easy to eat well.
Hey, well, here's what we need. I've got the solution to all of your problems. You can order from Rad Rabbit Vegan Pizza when you're in Chiang Mai. I don't know about right now, but when you need your vegan pizza with vegan cheese, Rad Rabbit Vegan Pizza. It's called Rad Rabbit. I'm actually I'm helping them, get the promotion out and stuff like that. So
how do they make a margarita pizza? This is the big question.
Oh, we got the secret recipe, man. Secret recipe. Maybe I can send it to you in a DM. Yeah. But no, we've got actually a few different cheeses that we use. So we're constantly experimenting and trying to get the perfect vegan cheese. So I would love your feedback. You can help us with honing the perfect vegan cheese, brother.
With yogurt, and with I promise you this, Jason. Yeah, if with yogurt and with cheese, if I found something that was the texture was the same, I would go for. I swear to God, I would go for it.
Let's
That
get
can
you
be your
sorted,
team,
man.
right?
We'll get you
That can
sorted.
be your team. Your team.
I love it, dude. Let's wrap it up here because we've been going for a while. But man, it's good. It's good talking to you. I really appreciate you coming on and doing the interview. And
Good man.
let's do it again sometime, brother.
Yeah, good man. Take care. Yeah.
We both got the quarantine shag and the quarantine. You know.
I was lazy. I was lazy well before quarantine and stuff like that. This is no hipster. This is just laziness. Yeah.
Yes, legit. Okay, wicked.
Have a good
Thanks,
one.
man. Take it easy.